Hello, seventh grade. Today we are going to talk about story mapping. One of the things I'm going to have you guys do over the next 2 weeks is write a paper for me. We're going to be writing stories. So this takes a little bit of creativity, takes a little bit of time, and it might be something new for you. We haven't written stories probably since 5th grade. So I'm going to go over story mapping. The PowerPoint is in this section of your Google Classroom. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you to open up a document and take notes about story mapping. You can do that right now if you really want to, but I usually do my lessons on Monday, assignment on Tuesday, lesson on Wednesday, assignment on Thursday, and then my journal on Friday. So that's how I kind of organize that. So today's about story mapping. When you look at a story map, it's kind of in the shape of a mountain. So if you look on the second page of the slide, you'll see I inserted a picture of a mountain showing you the steps of a story map. You're actually going to fill something out similar. It's not going to be a mountain because there's hard to get all the information in on that, but it's a similar chart with all of these pieces put into that, and then you're going to have to fill it out telling me all the pieces of your story before you actually write it. So it's kind of like a brainstorming or a pre-writing map. So story elements we're going to look at are characters, setting, rising action, climax, falling action, and then the resolution. Might seem like a lot, but actually a lot of these pieces are very short and sweet, such as like the resolution. That's usually, a few sentences. They lived happily ever after. That can be a very simple resolution. And so, yes, 6 elements, but they're can be short. Some of them can be long. You can take longer to describe your characters. You can take longer to change your settings because your setting might start one place and then end up somewhere else. But yeah, so we're going to take a look at each of those. The main character is called the protagonist. You want your main character to be the good guy, or at least in the end be the good guy. They can start out kind of being someone who maybe is struggling or something like that, but in the end you want them to learn a lesson, grow, change, and become the protagonist or the good guy. You also want to kind of describe a little bit of their background and their personality, why they are the way they are, if they're jaded or cold or humorous or shy. You could explain all of that kind of stuff. I put a sub character in there. You can throw in a sidekick or a friend or their best puppy pal or whatever it is, to be a sub character in that. You don't have to have a sub character, it's not necessary, but if you think of like Harry Potter, he's got Hermione and Ron. Those are sub characters or sidekicks to his character of Harry Potter. And then the other sub character you want to take a look at is an antagonist, or this would be the bad guy. Why are they bad? What is their purpose? A lot of the times when movies go wrong, it's because they don't have a very convincing or a very good bad guy. So you really want to make that a convincing antagonist in the story. Sometimes an antagonist in the story doesn't even have to be a person. It could just be the evil in the world, or bullies in general, or an outside force, that kind of thing. It doesn't always have to be a physical being. Okay, so setting is a little bit simpler. It's just the place you are. You can name the city, you can name the country, it can be the Earth we live on, or it can be Earth 2 if you're thinking of like, your DC Comics things. So you're going to want to choose a setting that's either real or completely made up, and you can absolutely do that for these stories this time. So one thing you want to pay attention to is when you're switching settings, when you're going from one location to another. You're not a genie in a lamp going, I'm going to move locations just magically, unless your person is magic and they have the ability to apparate or whatever they say in Harry Potter. you're going to want to actually show them changing a location. You know, Santa doesn't get to all the houses. He actually has to go there on his sleigh. You have to give an explanation of how they travel from one setting to another. It's actually a very important piece that a lot of people overlook, and it can be very confusing in the story to be like, okay, wait, how did they get here? Why are they all of a sudden in a new location? Really show how they get there. I have 2 subsettings. They're the same, but that's just like, you want to give a description for every place you go. So you could have 7 subsettings if you wanted to, because they change to different locations. You could have 1 subsetting if they just go from their house to grandma's house. That's really it. The transition is all the stuff in between. Rising action would introduce complications, problems that the main character is having, if they're having some kind of conflict, if they're, realize something about their situation that's wrong. Finding Nemo, what's the problem? They have to find Nemo. So the problem that the main character comes into is he loses his son. Okay, very simple, but it creates a problem. So you're going to want to create a kind of intrigue or problem. A lot of things we're going to be looking at with Harris Burdick. The pictures kind of create the intrigue or the problem, and you can incorporate that into your story. Suspense and questions, you want to build all that up, but then you also have to think about how you're going to answer them too. Don't just create intrigue and problems and then have no way to finish them. Okay, we want to map this out a little bit. The reader is most interested how the story will end when you get to the climax. So the climax should be and you don't know what's going to happen. It's are they going to die or are they going to live? Are they going to find their way home or are they going to be lost forever? So it's the holding of your breath kind of portion of the story. So you really want to build that climax up, and that's the peak of the mountain when you're looking at the story mountain on the first page. Falling action can be very quick. It's the solution. It's how do they solve it. Finding Nemo, it's actually falling action. It is very quick, and they kind of throw in a little bit of intrigue in the falling action. I'd say there's a little bit of a peak in a mountain when Nemo and Dory go into the net and they have to swim down, and then I think it's Dory's at the bottom, and then it's like, oh no, did Dory die? And then, oh no, she's not. And so you can create a little bit of a hilly mountain on your way down if you want to, but that falling action should be kind of a way back home, culminating, like when you make a s'more, it's like graham cracker, chocolate, marshmallow, and then your graham crackers at the end. The graham crackers are like the rising action, the building of the questions, the problem being presented, and then that falling action is like all the complements to it. Answering of the question, the feeling of completion, they've come to the end of their story, and then that resolution, like I said, is just kind of you feeling, and they lived happily ever after. A lot of people want to throw in the be continued, and I guess I'm fine with that, but what you really have to do, guys, is finish your story. Don't just leave it hanging because A, you're too lazy to finish it, B, you don't know how to end it, so you're just going to leave it on a cliffhanger. I'm smart enough to figure that out. Finish your story, give it a good ending, and then if you want to have another character pop up or he's not really dead or whatever at the end, you could throw one of those in and do a be continued sort of thing. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to have you take a few notes. Thursday you're going to pick out your Harris Burdick story that you're going to pick. So really on Wednesday, look through and read every single prompt because they are good, and you're going to pick one that you're going to write about. So pick a good one, and one that you know that you can create the characters and the intrigue and the story to go along with it. I will see you Wednesday.